All right, well, welcome to Writing Content That Sells. I am Joshua Lisec. I will talk a little bit more about myself. I've seen a lot of unfamiliar faces here today. But first, I would like to ask 3 people, each one question. And the first 3 will be the first 3. What is one thing you want to make sure you take away from our time together today? One thing. So first 3. Yes, here.
Learning how to tell our story to the world.
Learning how to tell our story to the world. Well, we'll make sure we cover that for sure. That's in the material. Yes?
Overcoming content mental blocks.
Content mental blocks. Ooh, there's a whole slide just about that. Yes, one more.
That my content I write is going to make me some money.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it just so happens I'm prepared to talk about all 3 things today with you. I see that there's some conversations out here. Would someone mind just closing the door? Not necessarily entirely, but just so that there's a little bit of a crack, so the stragglers don't get themselves locked out. So, as you see, my name is Joshua Lisec. I will introduce myself not with accolades, but rather with the sort of content that I have written to give you context for when we say writing content that sells, what content and how big are these numbers we're talking, Joshua? This is the fun stuff we'll get to. So really, we're answering the question, who I am and why do I care? I went over my Twitter account last night and I thought, what's a good way to introduce myself to these folks here? Well, how about some things that I've done? So we'll start on the far left. The same weekend that Barack Obama's memoir came out, I had ghostwritten the #2 Wall Street Journal bestseller that weekend. It just so happened to be right behind the former president, and so I feel like #2 behind a former president is a pretty good place to be. I've also ghostwritten the #1 health nonfiction book of the year. This year just came out a couple of weeks ago, called Stay Off My Operating Table. It's just past 10,000 copies sold. You might pick up already, I tend to write longer form content. And the longer form content is pretty hard when you've got 200, 250, 300 pages, and you need to make sure you hold people's attention for 50, 60, 70,000 words. The reader's favorite is the contest, and I also wrote the #1 marketing book of 2020 called The 60-Minute Startup. I like to recommend this book for people who want to turn their ideas into income, to paraphrase the title of the last session here. And I bring up these because the reader's favorite contest is the largest contest for authors by volume of people. So there's 5, 6, 7,000 entries from Simon & Schuster all the way down to somebody who just self-published on Amazon. So to have the #1 book in those spaces means a lot of things are true. Meaning, these books hold people's attention. So we want to be able to hold attention, even if it's an email. So you'll learn how to do that today. Some other thing that I've done, this is a fun one. There was a Kickstarter 1.5 years ago. This company reached out to me and they said, Joshua, we have built this really cool electronic chess set. It's going to be selling for $500. Does anyone think that $500 for a chess set is a good deal? No. How many times have I played chess in my entire life? Yet, I met with them for an hour and a half. I wrote their Kickstarter page, copy, about 3,000 words, which is really long for a sales letter, for a sales page. I wrote it with them on the spot in about an hour and a half. Their goal was to sell 30 of these units, so $6,000. They sold 1.9 million of something I didn't know anything about. So this is good news. I don't need to know anything about any of your industries for this to be useful to you. That said, I have ghostwritten 74 full-length nonfiction books. So there's a good possibility that I've ghostwritten books that are on your Kindle app or that are on your shelf. And then the last one is, this is kind of like something I like to share a little bit about, is that if you go to the largest Barnes & Noble in the world, one in New York City on 5th Avenue, you'll see one of my clients in the window there. Ooh, this is cool. Kind of famous there. But then one other thing that is particularly answering the question, why should you care about any of this content? This last point. I am the only certified ghostwriter and certified hypnotist in the world. Ghostwriting is acting in print, meaning you're portraying the voice, telling the story of someone better than they could have said it themselves. And hypnosis is merely the art of changing someone's beliefs, driving new behaviors, one of those behaviors being buying, which is what we want our content to do. So you all find yourselves in the right place this morning. I will now tell you a story. In 2021, my ghostwriting business earned $1,004,000. Making money as a writer is really hard. As you can imagine, I did not start anywhere near that. 2011, I got my very first writing gig. It paid $1.67 an hour. Not the sort of income that you want if you're going to be having a house, family, you have aspirations, you've got big dreams. I thought I should probably charge a little bit more than that. So 5 years of charging less than minimum wage, I thought I'm going to go for the big bucks. I'm going to write the stuff that sells my clients' products and makes them wealthy, and maybe I'll get a little percentage of that. So 2016, there's a local business owner who reaches out, found me on LinkedIn. Joshua, I see that you're a freelance writer. I have something I need freelance written. We have this exciting new digital product. Our overhead is almost zero. It's going to be like all profit for us. I thought, I can really help this person out. Took me about 5 hours to write this person's sales letter for his digital product. I send the copy in. Thanks, Joshua, that's great. Don't hear from him for about a month. I send him an email. Hey, how'd the launch go? Did you at least make back everything you paid me? And he texts me, yeah, so we sold $200,000 in 2 hours. I thought, oh, well, that's writing content that sells. At the time I received that email, that text message, before I saw it, I thought, he really paid me a lot for this. And then, after hearing how successful had Launch had been in 2 hours, I thought maybe I should charge him a little bit more than I did. $500 is what I charged. In my mind, thinking like an employee, that's $100 an hour. Consultants don't even get paid that much, is what I was thinking. I thought, maybe there's something more to this getting paid by the hour business as a writer. Maybe writing isn't about the effort you put in. It's not about the amount of time you put in, even. It is about one thing only. This is what I learned from that experience. Good writing sells something. It sells a purchase, it sells a click, it sells a share. Bad writing does not. As you can imagine, I get a lot of aspiring writers, freelancers, potential authors reaching out to me via Twitter. Follow me at Joshua Lisec if you're on Twitter, by the way. You'll get some unexpected shenanigans on Twitter if you follow me, if you like what you gathered today. I get a lot of aspiring writers and freelancers reaching out to me, and they'll say, Joshua, can you have a look at my writing? Is it any good? And I will ask them, what? Has it sold anything? Have you sold anything? If I go to your Twitter profile, will I see 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 retweets? So we're able to sell a share. Have you been able to get traffic to your website? Have you sold anything? Because that is the one and only criteria from this moment forwards that you will carry. When you think about, is my writing any good? Did it sell something? Even did it sell an idea or a new opinion? But that's a little tough, isn't it? Many of us were taught to hate writing in school, unfortunately, because we had grammar sticklers for teachers. And we were taught that your writing is good if you make no mistakes, if you make no typos. There is a friend of mine. His book has sold 100,000 copies. The first chapter has 12 typos. The first chapter, 100,000 copies. So typos, grammar, spelling, is not part of our writing content that sells equation. In fact, hypnosis, professional hypnotists, we are advised to use the wrong word on a regular basis to make people do a double take, to re-engage their conscious awareness, to make them go, wait, what did I just read? To pull them back, to get that, recapture that attention span. So as I said, writing is hard, but let's up the ante a little bit. Figuring out how to write in a way that makes someone have to have what it is that you are offering is hardest. And I would say of all the hard things there is to sell, probably a wooden chess set for $500 is probably one of the hardest things that you could sell, especially if you've never played chess. So, fortunately, there is a system for this. This is not a sales pitch. This is not a sales pitch. I'm just going to point this out. Not a sales pitch. I have a writing program called The Best Way to Say It. that has, as you can see, over 2,600 students in it. This is the best writing system, bar none, that borrows the principles of ghostwriting, of hypnosis, of direct response copywriting and advertising. It is life-changing for most people, particularly those who hate writing. And I am going to give you all a free excerpt today to teach you how to write content that sells, to teach you how to get past the mental blocks, to teach you how to tell your story with the world in such a way that they actually care and will act based on it, and so that you'll make the money. All right? Sound good, everybody? Okay, let's get right to it. 3 easy steps. I want to be mindful of the time because I want to focus, we'll come to this in a moment, the 3 steps, I promise. I want to be mindful of the time because I want to have this be an action-oriented experience for all of you. Meaning that there's some progress writing that thing you need to write that you get today that you otherwise would not have gotten. So that this is not just a, oh, that was interesting. I learned some things, took some pictures, took some notes. But rather, this is a life-changing experience for you. So we will get quickly past the content onto the action. One of the things about the best way to say it, and this is a mirror of the online course that I have, is I spend only about 20 minutes in the entire program on lecture. Here's the theory and the hypotheticals and whatnot. The typical writing class, typical English class, typical communication class will spend months on theory and formulas and methodologies and research, none of which matters at all. What matters is the application. Taking your ideas, your stories, your experiences, and structuring them in such a way that they compel people to act, to make them go, I have to have that. So that's what we're going to learn today. Let's talk about the 3 steps. There's the big idea, there's the restructuring, and then there's the refining. That might seem a little airy-fairy, a little general, a little high level here, but I will give you an example of how this works to create content that sells. I would like a volunteer to stand up and to join me over here. Yes, Jenny, yes, wonderful, wonderful. Are there markers? Dang, there are not. Oh, there are. Okay, we are going to demonstrate the best way to say it live. So, you scooch a little bit that way everybody can see the board here. So Jenny here, she has a coach's marketplace, would be a good way to describe it. Could you give the 2 or 3 sentence sales pitch for the value of the coach's marketplace?
It is a coaching services marketplace where you can find a coach or list your coaching services, and it's kind of like a matchmaking service between the two. Similar to Angie's List, but for coaching services, whether it be a life coach, career coach, or relationship coach.
Okay, so it's a marketplace kind of like Angie's List, but for coaches. Another way that I thought about it as Jenny first shared is it's kind of like Upwork or Fiverr where people can list their profile and then you can reach out and you can hire them and that sort of thing, but specifically for the coaching profession, life coaches, business coaches, that sort of thing. Jenny also shared that one of the issues is that inspired the idea for this marketplace is that anyone can call themselves a coach. It's the Wild West of coaching, she said. So how do you actually make sure you find someone who knows what they're talking about? Well, that, of course, is what the Coach's Marketplace is for. So let's start this exercise with a piece of content. So this is what you will all do. You'll start with, okay, what's the type of content I need to write? Is this going to be an email to my list of prospects who are interested in? Is it going to be an ebook, maybe a 50-page ebook that people can subscribe to your newsletter and get for free? Is it going to be a script for a 5-minute video for a 25-second TikTok? Let's just pick one piece of content that you know you need to create.
An ebook.
An ebook. Okay. So this is going to be, if it's going to cooperate, squeaky, squeaky. So just for reference, we're going to have ourselves a little ebook here. Nice little ebook put at the top here. I hope that's tall enough for the folks in the back. So we have ourselves an ebook. So we're now going to follow the 3-step sequence. We have ourselves the big idea, the restructuring stage, and then we're going to do the refining. Once you see this done, you will not be able to write any way different from this. This will be the easiest method you've ever seen. What you need to write will effectively write itself, and it will be good. The very first draft. I am a one-and-done type of person. You do not earn 7 figures in a year when you pour over your drafts over and over and over. You have to get it right the first time, move on to the next thing. So then let's return to the ebook. So we need to write this ebook. Let's think about what is the big idea here. So let's start with this exercise. Let's think out loud. What could your ebook be about?
How coaches can find their ideal client.
Okay, how coaches could find their ideal clients. I borrow the phrase, the keyword, big idea from the TED platform. TED Talks, TEDx Talks. I've given one. I've ghostwritten several for other people. I've helped people get TEDx and TED Talks as well. And on every form where you apply to be a speaker at TED or at TEDx, they ask you one question. What's your big idea worth sharing? So if we were going to expand on this with a little bit of extra text, you might say, big idea worth sharing. Worth sharing meaning that this is something new. It is unique. It's a did you know type of thing. So now let's come back and revisit this idea for the ebook that gets people excited about joining the Coaches Marketplace. Is how to find my ideal client, is that a big idea? Is that more so like a process? Is that an insight or is that more so a process? Feels like it's a little more process oriented.
It can, but the big idea behind it is what avenues the coaches are missing. So it's kind of the insights like, did you know? Did you look at this, and this? But I can see where it can be a process.
What are some of the did you look at this, and this for coaches who want to find their ideal clients?
Well, coaches limit themselves to two platforms. Traditionally, Facebook and Instagram. They're missing, but they're missing out on YouTube, TikTok, and other potential platforms. But then they may or may not even do the research as far as demographics. Are they hitting their ideal client range?
Okay.
Age range, that kind of thing.
Okay. In my head, I'm hearing a metal detector going beep, 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 beep. We're over something special here. Over something special. So we take the idea of how to find your ideal client. If we turn that into a statement, a claim, a big idea, and we use some principles of direct response copywriting, which is to use odd numbers like 13 or 19 or 21 things or 7 secrets, 7 habits of highly effective people, right? That's where 7 this, 7 that seems to come up often. So what if the big idea was something like this? And this is going to be a little long, but that's okay. We want to take up the whole page. Like, did you get our ebook? And then big, bold, exciting letters with nothing else. Well, we'll finish this in a moment, but I do want to point this out. One of the best ways to make sure people read your content is to remove from your pages, from your marketing materials, everything you don't want them to read. So this means having lots of white space. If you've been to any graphic design sessions this week, or you will, or you know about graphic design, use white space, meaning we don't want to have 15 pictures and 7 links. You can click here and there's a menu and share on Facebook and go over to LinkedIn. Oh, did you see our latest TikTok? And here's the newest from the blog. Scrap all that. Just put the one thing in front of them that you want them to see, that you want them to read, that you want them to do something about. So coming back to the how to find your ideal clients, we want them to say, oh, I haven't heard that yet. I don't know that. I should share that. Big idea worth sharing. So it might be something like 7 places your ideal clients are you haven't looked yet. I haven't looked yet. There's curiosity. And that, of course, would be true, right?
Or hiding.
That would be one way to put it. Which do you like better? 7 places your ideal clients are hiding you haven't looked yet, or 7 places your ideal clients are you haven't looked yet? Which do we like? Hiding. Okay, that's a good one. 7 places we'll just finish it down here. Ideal clients are hiding. It has been 4 years since I've given a public presentation like this, so I apologize for the drunken handwriting. Oh, this is. I said it was writing content that sells. I didn't say writing that content that looked good, handwritten out.
You can lock the wheel so it doesn't go on you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You haven't looked yet. So what we have here is, oh, I need to know about that. Does your content have the I don't know about that effect? That's all part of the big idea. So there's 2 words Much is packed into this. It's, I don't know about that. I need to learn about that. If it was something like how to turn on a light switch, is that viral content? Probably not. Is it how to start a car? Probably not. Is it a big idea we're sharing, meaning they don't know how to do it yet? So this is a useful little reframe for all content that you're writing. As you're thinking, I need to write this email, I need to put together a cover letter, I need to put together a slideshow, I need to write content, and then you put in whatever the content is that you need to write. If it is basic, if it is self-explanatory, if it is how to turn on the light switch, you probably should not choose that as your idea to start with. You might have heard of this little tip, this little principle called the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the results come from 20% of your efforts. 80% of the output are coming from 20% of your input. The big idea would be a good example of the 80-20 rule in action. So you'll actually spend a lot of your time on this. When I'm meeting with a nonfiction author, I spend 6 weeks on the title of the book. Not the title and subtitle, just the title of the book. And then we write that book. So we start off with the big idea that's worth sharing, the big idea that has commercial viability, the big idea that makes people go, I should pay $500 for a wooden chess set. That's what we're going at. And to close that little loop there briefly, the reason we were able to sell $2 million worth of a $500 chess set was the big idea that we sold the idea of it being a magical experience. A magical experience. Because we knew, well, what are one of the things that chess enthusiasts like about it? It's about the mystique, it's about the play. It's not about how effective it is. It wasn't even about any of that. It was about the magic, the intrigue, the mystery of this ancient game. And so we really leaned into that, and we made that the core of our big idea. So I want to check in with you all. Do you feel like if you were to write a piece of content now, you have enough to help identify your big idea? Are we getting nods or are we getting head shakes? Okay, is there anything about the, yes, okay, so is there anything about how to find your big idea that's unclear? Because before we move on to restructure and refine, I want to make sure this is as clear to everyone as possible. Yes?
Aim for short, longer, what sort of ideal number of words we're tossing into the title?
Yes, so the big idea is kind of a proxy for what the title of the piece should be. Also, subject line of an email would be where your big idea is. It would be the title of your presentation. It would be the point of your cover letter. It would be the one line that you bold inside of a document that you might otherwise not bold anything. So how long it should be should really be decided by the type of material that it is. Because remember, we want it to be read. So if the medium in which you are writing has a limited capacity of what it is that you can see, well, you should probably focus on that. For example, a YouTube video title gives you 100 characters. Total, letters and numbers, spaces. You probably should not write an elaborate paragraph to describe your one big idea. It should be succinct enough so that when I'm scrolling through YouTube search results, the entire title is in there. When you open your smartphone and you scroll through your inbox, your big idea, as seen in your subject line, ought not be so long that I see the first 7 words and it's ... after that. We should be able to see the whole thing. So a lot of what I've learned about writing is that one thing that makes it good, meaning one thing that allows it to sell, is people can actually read it. Surprisingly enough. Is there anything else about the big idea and how to find it that is unclear that we want to make sure we answer? Yes?
So in my case, my blog is like informational, so I don't always have like for example, I'm about to start a series on the different flowers because my blog has to do with food. And a lot of my readers don't understand why there's so much flour in the flower aisle, what to do with the flour. So it's going to be a multiple part set because they want multiple parts, but it's going to be multiple parts. But outside, like my little core group, I wouldn't know how to engage other people about flour in this way.
Yes, so we're now going to borrow a principle from hypnosis called rapport. Have everybody heard of rapport? Rapport comes from hypnosis. Rapport is the state in which people are aligned. One person feels like, they both feel like, okay, this person gets me. This person gets me. Rapport is something that we want to try to create, meaning, in this case, the 7 places your ideal clients are hiding you haven't looked yet. This person knows I want ideal clients. This person knows it's been hard for me. This person has some sense. This person is an expert because they know of places I don't. So instantly, we have a little bond that's being formed over here with Jenny, right? Okay, so that's happening. Now, in your case, so I have several friends and family members who have gluten allergy, who have soy allergy, corn allergy, and they will bake with things like almond flour. They will bake with coconut flour. They will bake with cassava flour. We like to use chickpea flour for these sorts of things. So are people with food allergies the type of readers that you have on your blog at all?
A little bit.
A little bit. Who tends to be the typical person who reads your blog?
A lot of people who just want to learn more about food and why we have like so much different, like what are the variations of a lot of things. Like they ask me, like, why is there so much sugar? What's the difference between this? Like they're more curious about the food that's available to them than just maybe.
Okay.
Care, but you know what I mean.
We'll go a little bit deeper. I've been asking you to stand here for a while, Jenny. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
We're good shoes today.
Okay. Well, I promise it'll be worth it when we get to these two. We get to here. Okay. So people are interested in food, interested in flours and sugar and this sort of thing. My question would be, what for? So what is the outcome? What is the result that they want? Do they want to, let's say, improve their fasting blood glucose level, or do they want to lose weight or inches, or why do they want to learn more about flour and sugar and food and whatnot?
So a lot of my readers look at me as a source of like, oh, she's such a great cook. So they just want to know like what I know. They want to be able to be like, oh, if Tay uses cake flour to make make cakes, then I should probably use cake flour to make my cakes, like that kind of stuff. So they always are soliciting me for knowledge. So instead of dealing with them individually, I kind of do it through the blog. So mostly for their knowledge, for curiosity. They don't usually have like a set purpose outside of wanting to maybe improve cooking or dive deeper into their cooking.
Okay, what action would you like them to take after they read your blog?
Subscribe.
Subscribe to the blog?
Subscribe. I'm trying to grow it right now, so that's what I want people to subscribe.
Okay. There is a tweet I have put out over the years that seems to go semi-viral every time I tweet it. And it applies to the situation with your blog. I always say, your book must contain ungoogleable information. That's a word we've invented. Your blog must contain ungoogleable information. Your email list must contain ungoogleable information. Meaning, what's the difference between you and the alternative of searching for it for free? So there's things that you know, that you're an expert in, and I think that's true of all of us. The content that we want to write, that we want to produce, be it for ourselves, a blog, a business, a personal brand, there are things that you know that have value to people beyond, oh, that was interesting. Beyond, oh, that was interesting. One of those beyonds being, wow, I need to just hire this person to do the thing for me. And that's the type of book that I ghostwrite. The type of nonfiction book that I ghostwrite is, wow, this is so good, I feel overwhelmed to the point I just want to hire the author to do it for me. And so my clients will use their books as client creators for their business because the people are just feeling so overwhelmed with information. This is the way to do it, I get it, but I just need to hire the person to do it for me. That's a strategic outcome of writing the book. So let's come to the big idea. In your case, is there a specific type of fan favorite food or baked good or something that people will regularly, it will all sell out? And maybe you could share some of the secrets of this delicious, nutritious food or something that they can't find on Google, a particular recipe of yours or secrets about why your food always tastes so good and is so popular and things you can't find at Whole Foods or you can't find. So I think in your case it might be the secretive aspect, interestingly enough, kind of like this, the secretive aspect. The big ideas could be, here are things to do with these flours that you're not aware of. Or you could flip that around and be foods that you can create, that you can cook, that you can bake, that have ingredients you don't know anything about, but are right there at the grocery store. So I think you could focus on the outcome of either of the baking something new, creating something new, emulating recipes of yours that are wildly popular, and now you're kind of pulling back the curtain, so to speak. You're welcoming them into the privacy of your kitchen to show them, and you can speak to the exclusivity of it. That's probably what the big idea I think would be one of those things. And you could also do like an allergy series. and even choose unique ones like a corn allergy or a banana allergy, a coconut allergy, and then what you might use instead, and make sure it tastes good. And you can focus on the pain point of many times gluten-free baked goods taste like cardboard, and they're 3 times more expensive. Here's how to make it for 1/4 the price in your own kitchen with something that's at Kroger's. Oh, I want to know about that. I don't know about that. So it should always be, the headline should always be promising something that they don't know. That is a big idea worth sharing. And that is one of the criteria of a TED talk, of a TEDx talk, is when they read that first line, is it ungoogleable? When you fill out your TED speaker application form and they ask you what's your big idea worth sharing, it needs to be something that makes the TED application reviewers go, oh shoot, we haven't seen that before. So does it pass that test? Does your big idea pass that test? Now, here is what you do. We've got your step 1 here, and we're going to continue to use Jenny as our example for a coach's marketplace. So the title of it, her big idea would be 7 places your ideal clients are hiding you haven't looked yet. So you are now going to continue on to step 2, which is the restructuring. To go from 1 to 2, we have to make a little bit of a transition. Something has to happen between these, doesn't it? Usually, what begins to happen as you start writing down possibilities of your big idea, this might work, that might work, you're just kind of free writing on the page or on your phone or in your Google Docs or in your Word, you'll begin to see multiple ideas show up that should actually be in the product. Let yourself keep writing. So in this case, probably what would happen for Jenny as she's writing 7 places that they're hiding, 7 secrets, well, what would those be? Well, my platform would be one of them, of course, because we want to have value that's beyond buy my stuff. If the call to action, if the content is all just now buy my stuff, you have not cultivated desire. We want to cultivate desire. We will want to show, okay, this person's not just in it for themselves, they're in it for me as well. And a good example of that was at the outset of this, I shared a few of my accomplishments, and I related those to what you will be able to do. I could have just said, look at what I've done, hoity-toity with my little bow tie, my invisible bow tie. But rather, I related it to, now we can do that for you as well. So as you begin writing what your big idea could be, you will then just allow yourself to, no stopping, just keep writing what all has to be in here in order to, it seems like my phone has just turned off. That's unexpected. I'm not sure how that happened. Like I said, it's been 4 years. Had a tech laggard moment, if there's any diffusion of innovation nerds. I am a tech laggard. Okay, so what you will do as you're writing your big idea is you'll just write out, okay, what else has to be here? Well, I know the Coach Marketplace would be one of them. I can remember they can go to Upwork, they could go to LinkedIn, and Reddit, they could go all these different places. So you just start free writing everything that needs to be in here. As you continue from writing your big idea, you just go, let yourself go. So in this case, I'm going to do a recipe about the rare, let's say, the rare person who has an allergy to some of the most common gluten-free flours and what they would do instead. And it's like someone you love have a allergy to gluten. They might also have an allergy to this in all capital letters. And like oftentimes people with a gluten allergy also have a gluten in coconut or a gluten in banana or a gluten and this, a gluten in that. And well, what are you supposed to do for that person? Because it's not just gluten-free, it's what else are you supposed to do? So then you might, well, then they could do this, they could do this, they could do this, they could do this. So you're just going to be free writing everything that you know needs to be in your, in this case, ebook that fulfills the promise of the big idea. It only makes sense. Otherwise, 7 places your ideal clients are hiding that you haven't looked yet, and you should just go sign up for the Coach's Marketplace. Well, where are the other 6? So you simply allow yourself to just keep writing. And then when you get to a stopping point, you're like, well, I think I'm tapped out. I can't think of anything else. When you hit that block, right? As you were saying, Jenny, when you hit that block, you stop. And then restructuring. Restructuring happens. So after you've brain dumped your big idea and everything else, you will now, thank you, restructure. You'll ask yourself the following question. This is how you begin the restructure phase. This will sound silly, but then you will see great wisdom in it. What comes first? What comes first? You look at your paragraphs, you look at your lines, you look at your bullets. You ask yourself, what comes first? Staring at this. So we're not writing anything now. We're going through the critical or the analytical process of what it makes sense to come first. So is the first thing that makes sense to say the first place your ideal clients are hiding you haven't looked yet? Maybe, but what's going to be in people's heads? How does she know I haven't looked there yet? That's going to be the question. The ideal clients are hiding. It's like, oh, really? Little Miss Clickbait. Assume there will be a little skepticism. Remember we talked about rapport? As soon as there is a click, a read, we must meet them where they're at. We must build rapport with them. So the very first thing, and let's say it's going to be in the restructuring here, like one of the things that you know you need to talk about is self-evident. It's, well, where they're hiding, meaning you haven't seen them yet. So you might start with, let's say you had written, oh, you tried all the obvious places already. And yeah, we'll just put, you wrote down Coach's Marketplace. Oh, that's awful. Maybe you've tried Upwork. Maybe you looked on LinkedIn, right? You've tried the different places. Oh, and you haven't looked at these places yet. So where have you looked? So that would actually be, this one right here, you would, in the restructuring, you would cut, you would paste it, and put it at the top. So the art of restructuring is going to look like this, where you are copying and pasting, and you are moving things around. It's going to look like this, copy and paste, and cut this and move this around, cut this and move this around, as you restructure. Yes?
Is this restructuring or refining?
This is restructuring. We'll get to the refining. So in restructuring, you have kind of brain dumped everything that came to you as you started writing about your big idea. You thought, oh, this is cool. I could write about this. You're off to the races. Maybe it's 10 minutes. Maybe it's an hour and a half. You've just type everything that comes to mind about this big idea. So in Jenny's case, she probably have written down her 7 places. She might have also written down what makes Coach's Marketplace unique. She might have also written down, here's how to sign up. Just everything that comes to mind about that big idea. One of the things that probably would have come to mind for Jenny is how she knows you looked in all the obvious places. And then that, of course, oh, that's the first thing that she should talk about. So then you just simply order in the order that it makes sense. So perhaps in your case, if you want them to read all the way to the end, maybe Coach's Marketplace should be number 7, and then you talk about here's how it's superior to the previous 6, and then here's how to sign up. And that might be the call to action at the end of it. So that is how you restructure. You allow yourself to run with a big idea, free writing on the page. This prevents writer's block from happening. Once you get the thing you know you need to write about, you just go. You just effing go with this thing. And then when you hit the wall, time to stop. Okay. You're not going to battle with writer's block. You're going to let it, you're going to obey the writer's block. So that's different. We're not going to resist it. We're going to allow it. That's when you know it's time to do the restructuring. Let's say maybe Jenny only comes up with 5. Oh, gee, I needed 7, but I can't think of any more. Okay. We're going to change that to the 5 places. We'll change it to 5 places. Oh, that's awful.
And you
Oh,
said
dear.
something about using odd numbers?
Yes. For whatever reason, people seem to tend to feel that odd numbers, particularly those that aren't used super often, that was intentional. So there was one, for example, I said I have a masterclass that teaches you how to write persuasively by stop writing anti-persuasively. So if you remove things that push people away from the sale, what's going to happen instead? You're going to pull them into the sale. And I picked 45. I can't tell you why I picked 45, but people thought it was intentional. So it worked. Oh, 40. Oh, he knows what he's talking about. He's an expert on this. It's exactly 45. Well, no, but it had the perception of that being it. So the restructuring phase, to review of how we got here. So what Jenny will have done, she will have her 5 places your ideal clients are hiding. You haven't looked yet. Subscribe now to get this for free, the special report. Exclusive access special report. Use exciting language like that, not download ebook. It's exclusive access special report. Now, big red, exciting. Allow people's eyes to go where you want them to click. This is another aspect of writing, is making it explicit where you want them to go. Not a black button against a white background, but a fun, obvious red color. Assume you're catching people while they're in the restroom, putting on their makeup, or let's say washing up, and they've got their phone out there while they're washing one of their hands. This can be a useful visual cue for you as you come up with your big idea. Assume people are reading your title of your content, your big idea, while they're washing their left hand in the faucet after going to the bathroom, holding their phone in the other. And that's the state you've got them in. If you can make them, wait, stop, okay, and put down the phone and then wash both hands while staring at the phone, that's how you know you've got them. That's about rapport again, meeting them where they're at. Most people are not going to be reading gesture content, they're going to be doing something else. And big red or green or orange or blue or whatever buttons against the white or contrasting background, oh, I guess I'm supposed to click here. Lead people where you want them to go. So the restructuring phase and how we got here and how we decided what goes in what order, meaning, well, what's the thing that they need to know first? Well, they need to know that I know what I'm talking about. So I need to fulfill the promise, meaning I know you've looked here, you looked here, you looked here. Oh, yeah, I have. How does she know that? She must be an expert at this. I guess I'll keep reading. And then the previous 4, and then she gets to Coach's Marketplace. Oh, here's how it's better than the previous 4. And then here's how you sign up. It's just a natural flow resulting from the restructuring process. Do we have any questions about that? Is anything unclear yet how you complete the restructuring process effectively? Yes?
So how many times does it happen where like you have the content and the information that you want to convey, and then you have to then go to like the big idea from that information and then restructure based on the idea that you're creating? Like what
Yes.
the order switch?
Yes. So what happens if you've got a bunch of content already created and then you have to intuit what the big idea is, and then you have to restructure it? I have just finished ghostwriting a book in the construction industry that began with 689 pages of existing content from the author. He said, Joshua, do something with this. There's over 350,000 words worth of content I had to find a 45,000 word book out of. It was hard. That was hard. But we deduced we figured out what the big idea would be by asking ourselves this question. What here is ungoogleable? Remember that? The ungoogleable information? What do they already know? So we look at the topics. Okay, they know this, they know this, know this. This is literally the first result of the first page of Google. No, we're not talking about that. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is interesting. Ungoogleable information. So by the process of elimination, you may find yourself deciding not to use 90% of what's there, 70% of what's there. We're looking for new, we're looking for fresh. We're looking to give people a reason to leave Twitter, to leave TikTok, to leave their inbox, to leave their search, and come further up and further in to your material. So it must be the ungoogleable information, or at least it's hidden deep in the mind of Google. So that's how you would do that. And then maybe you have, out of 15 topics that were there, maybe only 4 or 5 are left over. And you think, what is the unifying aspect to this? What's the unifying experience here? I'll give you an example of this. I mentioned the health and wellness book that just sold 10,000 copies, and it is the #1 best health and wellness book of 2022. A client of mine. He came to me and said, Joshua, this is 2020, so this is over a year and a half ago. Joshua, I just had a tweet that went viral about a patient that I had who died of heart disease at age 36, which is really rare. I'm seeing more and more people needing quadruple bypass surgery in their 30s because of the standard American diet. I need to talk about this. That was the beginning and end of his book idea. There was no, I have 689 pages of content. There was no, I have 6 pages of content. There's, I need a book here. So we went through the process of, well, what do you know that's ungoogleable? And in his case, it's what does he know about people's health, the problems they're experiencing, and the causes from his position as a cardiothoracic surgeon, having done over 3,000 heart surgeries. And there was a lot there. What does he know about the dietary recommendations and requirements that are wrong, so wrong they're the opposite of what you should do? And those 2 questions gave us a table of contents. And then I asked him, what's the most important outcome? Because he didn't know what his big idea was. So this is exactly to your point. We have some ideas now and some content, some topics, but what's the unifying thing? Well, what do they want? And he laughed and said, but they don't want to be in my surgery room. They don't want to be on my operating table. They don't want any heart surgery. So what's the unifying idea? Stay off my operating table. That's the title of the book. Stay off my operating table. Because that's not really exactly Googleable. Have you ever heard of a heart surgeon go into depth on how to reverse the symptoms of eventual cardiac event? That's pretty hard to find. That's pretty hard to find. There's not, the basics of heart disease, what causes heart disease. We don't talk about that at all. We talk about what he uniquely knows. And that eliminates everything else he could talk about. This is a useful heuristic as you're going from the restructuring, as you're entering the restructuring phase. You have as that little heuristic, what here is ungoogleable? and also what's Googleable. So let's say you had come up with two more obvious ones. Like what's an obvious way people try to get business coaching clients, let's say?
Facebook ads.
Okay, so Facebook ads. Have your ideal clients already done Facebook ads? Like, have they already tried them before?
Like the coaches that I want to pull into my site, yeah, that's the most common way that they advertise is Facebook ads.
Okay.
On Facebook.
Right, so then what she might say is, you've tried the Facebook ads, you've tried this, you've tried that. If originally she said, well, they could try Facebook ads, well, they've probably already done that. Like, well, yeah, no, of course I've done that. And this is one of the annoying things about so much clickbait content, which is more like a click trap nowadays, is they'll say 7 secrets you need to know to get rich and have better sex and be the hero of your family. These sorts of bombastic, over-the-top things. And they'll be like, tip number 1, be respectable. Really? Number 2, be dependable. 3, be honest. Okay, what is this, Sunday school? You know, this is most of your competitors' content, I will say this. This is most of front-page Google content in every industry. It's all the Googleable information. It's, well, this person doesn't know anything new. I'm more of an expert in this person's industry than they are. Why am I reading this person's blog? I'm out. So that's another useful tip. If your competitors are talking about it, don't. If you don't. And this means you might need to go a little deeper. You might need to be controversial. You might need to give some of your opinions, which maybe half of people hate. And that's okay. I regularly tell people that you ought to repel people you do not want to do business with. Repel people you don't want to do business with. I think I've gotten adept at that. I get blocked a lot on Twitter, but it's part of my brand because people will reach out to me, Joshua, I love your takes. Oh, I think I should do a book. And I need it to be you because you get me. Because you have the same opinions I do. Rapport. It's all rapport. So now we're going to transition from the restructuring to the refining. And refining, the third stage of this, is usually defined by one activity alone. And is the thing I see that most writing does not have, even by professional writers with creative writing degrees. And that is transitions. This is the hallmark of the refining phase. It is hard to do, and yet it makes up. It is ghostwriting, frankly. Ghostwriting is coming up with transitions. It's all transitions in the refining phase. What do I mean by transitions? Well, let's come up here to restructuring phase. So we know that in this piece of content, Jenny would need to talk about the places you've already looked. She need to talk about the first place you could look, the second place you look, the third place you could look, the fourth place you could look, and then the fifth place you could look, and then, by the way, you should check this out and then sign up and blah, blah, blah. Refining is where you come up with transitions. Hard stops make up terrible writing, where the flow is broken, where it makes people go, wait, what are we talking about again? What's happening here? It's different from using the intentional typo to re-engage people and make them go, wait a second. Like what I'll often do is when I teach people to use typos strategically, I will spell it Typoos. Now there's some chuckles. So in the transitions phase, it might look like this. Okay, I've copied and pasted the first place to look, the second place you looked. The content that she wrote out originally, as she was kind of brain dumping everything that she could write on the topic of the 7 places or now the 5 places, the first place to look is LinkedIn groups. Do this, look here, check this out. Stop. The second place to look is, and it's kind of categorized. It's kind of like you have to leap from one thing to the next. There's not a natural, easy flow of reading. So the refining phase is where you'll do more writing. You'll create literary connective tissue. Literary connective tissue from one point to another. So let's say the first place is LinkedIn groups. What's the second place? People haven't looked yet. TikTok. Okay. So what could be literary connective tissue transitions we come up with in the refining phase to make this so good, so easy to read, like people just flow through it. And they find themselves at the end of it and they see the big green button that says subscribe and they click and they fill out their profile, right? Well, we think, okay, LinkedIn groups and TikTok. What do they have in common? Nothing. Oh, we could talk about that. Which also means that it might not be the most obvious place to look. So as she finished writing, the first place to look that your ideal clients are hiding, LinkedIn groups. She could get people ready to read about TikTok versus just a hard stop. Okay, we're done talking about this, now we're going to talk about something else now. Readers hate that. That is I'm out of here. We want easy transition into the next thing. Easy transition into the next thing. That's what refining does. So she's talking about LinkedIn groups. She could say something along the lines of, once you get your LinkedIn profile optimized, following the tips here, and you're joining the groups, we are now going to take your professional persona, your professional hat off, and we are going to get funky, or we are going to get a little unexpected. The next place you're going to learn about has nothing to do at all with LinkedIn and might feel uncomfortable if you're, like, you get people ready for it. Get people ready for it. That's what a good transition does, is it closes out what you're talking about, it closes that loop, and it gets people ready for the next thing. Let's have a fun example of what a transition could look like in the refining phase that's difficult. So I would like two people to shout out two ideas. I'll explain what I mean in a second. Jenny, thank you so much for coming. I think let's give Jenny a hand for coming up and being on our exercise. Thank you so much, Jenny. So I would like one person to call out their industry. One person. What's your industry?
Hospitality.
Okay, hospitality industry. What do we mean by hospitality?
Specifically, which food and beverage.
Okay, so food and beverage industry. I want someone else to call out your industry. What's your industry? Skincare. Oh, this will be interesting. Okay, so let's say, I don't know how or why, but let's say you are writing something that has to do with food and beverage and skincare. And you have to have a transition between those two things. It would not make sense to say, okay, we're now talking about skincare. Well, let's also talk about food and beverage. We say, what do they have in common? Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. So we could say, 7 best snacks that make your skin shine. Something like that. Oh, wow, now they're connected. We could say the top 3 cheap beverages at the grocery store, at Kroger, at Whole Foods. You can pick out the place that they strengthen your skin or protect your skin, protect you from skin cancer. That sort of direct literary connective tissue between ideas, it gets easier to form for you as you go through that process of finding, well, what do these have to do, what do these have to do with each other? That is a little heuristic, little useful rule for coming up with the transitions in the refining phase. Is what does step 1 have to do with step 2? And then you let yourself marinate on that question. Oh, here's what they have to do with each other. And then call it out. And it can be obvious. It might also be obvious they have nothing to do with each other. Call that out too. These have nothing to do with each other whatsoever. And then get people ready for how different they're going to be. Get people ready for it. That'll make them more easily come into the next stage. So let's review what we talked about. We have gone through a quick preview of the best way to say it, the writing course. Over 2,600 people are going through this, and they're learning what you have, which is how to come up with a big idea of your content first. And the big idea needs to be ungoogleable information. Something that makes people go, oh, shoot, I don't know about that. I want to learn about that. And then the very first thing that you'll have when you begin to brain dump it all and just flesh it all out, and then when you're done writing, oh, okay, I've hit my writer's block. I'm going to stop now. The very first thing that you cut and paste and put at the top of your piece of content is you need to come clean and tell the truth. You need to fulfill the promise of your clickbait title, the big idea. In the case of Jenny, the clients are hiding. Well, how does she know that they're hiding? Where does she know that they looked before? And that would be Facebook ads. And then you reorder the stuff in the way that makes sense for a natural chronological flow, a linear flow. Step 1 does not come after step 3. So that's what you're doing when you restructure the content. It's a lot of, frankly, cutting and pasting. You're not doing a whole lot of writing here. In fact, you might also be just deleting stuff. Well, that's Googleable. That's obvious. My competitors are talking about that. Delete. And then in the transition phase, the refining, this is where you refine the material and you will form that literary connective tissue from one idea to another. This outcome is that you have written content that sells, but it does not feel like you've written. It feels like you have gone through some sort of an analytical process. It doesn't feel like writing. That's what people like about the best way to say the experience is everything hard about writing. We just have to write it all perfectly the first time. It has to be in the right flow from the beginning. we skip everything that's difficult about writing. So that's what the experience will be like. And because you'll allow people to get engaged with something that they actually want to learn, and you've built rapport with them, oh yeah, she's right. She knows me. She gets me. And you've ordered everything, step 1, step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then everything makes sense. You've flowed them through the material, and then you hand them the next most obvious thing. The next step is to go here. And you have built a ladder almost of content, a ladder of ideas that naturally brings them to there as the next thing that they want to do. I'm going to go ahead and say thank you very much for coming. I will stick around for a couple more minutes. If you have any specific questions, feel free to come out and come up and chat with me. I will give a quick little mini pitch. If you follow me at Joshua Lisec on Twitter, or just search me on LinkedIn, I would love to have your presence with me on social media following my shenanigans. Thank you very much, everyone.